Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to be talking about WandaVision, Episode 4. Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I am your host, Brent Casina. Now let's talk about WandaVision, Episode 4. I did not like this episode. As much as I've loved the first 3 episodes, this episode felt really boring. I think because it didn't really tell us anything other than it's all Wanda, which we found out at the very end of the episode. Yeah, it was fun, I think, to see people come back from what they call in the Marvel Universe the blip, which is basically when Thanos snapped everybody out of existence and then brought them back 5 years later, thanks to Hulk, in Endgame. So that was fun to see, but everything else after that was just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I'm really having a lot of fun with the sitcom format that they were doing the first 3 episodes. I know there are other people on the internet, or maybe you guys out there, maybe we're not feeling that as well. So maybe this episode gave you more of that it's a normal Marvel movie type feel. But I think that sitcom format is what has been so refreshing for me, because it's been a while since I've watched a Marvel movie in the first place, but it's been even longer since I felt like Marvel was doing something new and exciting. So for this episode, just to go back to the regular Marvel formula, I think was a bit of a letdown for me. The other thing I thought in this show was that it wasn't funny, this episode. I've been laughing the last 3, like the third episode, not as many laughs because it was more intriguing with the mystery. But the first 2, I really did think they were funny in that classic sitcom-y way. But like Kat Dennings showing back up here from the Thor movies, from that franchise. If you don't remember her, she was in Thor and Thor: The Dark World as Darcy. She's back here as that same character. Her stuff for me this time felt flat. Like, I liked her character in the Thor movies. I thought she was well written there. But it just fell flat here, and it was kind of annoying and grating. Not really a fan. We had Randall Park back as Jimmy Woo. You might remember him from the 2 Ant-Man movies, playing that character, Agent Woo. He was with S.H.I.E.L.D., I think, before. Now he's with the FBI. I enjoy Randall Park a lot. I love him on, he's on a sitcom as well. There's a lot of sitcom actors, here. Takes place in Orlando. I should know the name of this thing. We used to watch it all the time. Anyway, I really enjoy him. But he just wasn't as fun here. So I don't know what, the humor didn't work for me. The mystery, like we already knew what was going on basically. And it wasn't that hard to figure out. So did we need a whole 30-minute episode for them to tell us stuff we already knew? I don't think we did. And I think that was my biggest problem with this episode, is that we didn't learn anything new. There was no moving anything forward. It was just rewinding back to where we were, to let you know that, Geraldine was a sword agent, and Wanda's taken over this city and town, and there's something weird going on. Like, that's all we found out. And then, at the very end of the episode, Geraldine, that was her sitcom character, but now it's Agent Rambeau, Monica Rambeau, says, it's all Wanda, right? So, if you haven't been paying attention, Monica Rambeau was also from another Marvel movie. She was the little girl in Captain Marvel, and her mom, call sign Photon, was Carol Danvers' buddy, back in the 90s or whatever. They were both female fighter pilots in the 90s before she became Captain Marvel with the Kree, and then she came back down, and so seems like her mom founded S.W.O.R.D. after Carol, came back in the 90s with the whole Skrull stuff, and she grew up to be a S.W.O.R.D. agent as well. So that is where this character comes in. So a whole lot of other Marvel characters are appearing from different franchises here in WandaVision, which I think is cool. But they're not really you have to be really paying attention to be like, oh, that's the little girl all grown up. And if you weren't a big Marvel Comics fan, where Monica Rambeau is codenamed Photon in the comics, she's not really even a major character at all. She's kind of like a C or D list level character in the comics. So even that type of reference is really, really deep. And if you don't know that Monica Rambeau is Photon / Captain Marvel in the comics at one point in time, I think in the 80s she was going by that name, you wouldn't know that this Monica Rambeau is this character, and that makes sense. Or you wouldn't remember that from the Captain Marvel movie where you were like, oh yeah, that little girl's going to grow up to be, Monica or whatever. She's supposed to get powers at some point, so we'll see if she does have powers yet, or if she's going to get them, but maybe by the end of WandaVision through Wanda's magic, stuff like that. So, I don't know. I wasn't that hot on this episode, and I think that's kind of why it took me a couple days to review it and talk about it. Just I've been very busy as well, helping my wife out with her new business stuff. But not to make excuses, but I really do think since this episode wasn't like, wow, that's so cool, the way that the first three were for me, that I was like, man, do I want to review it? And I'm like, yeah, you kind of told people you're going to do a weekly review. So I wasn't so hot on this episode. I hope next episode we get more back into the sitcom, more back into the mystery with Wanda and Vision. I think maybe also too, that is the hook for me, is seeing Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen act as those two characters. They're so entertaining, they're so lovely together, and I think them being totally out of this episode also lost me for a bit, because that for me was the hook in the first two episodes, was those two actors' performances. So without having all that, it seems like a totally different show, because the tone is entirely different, that whole thing. So I think maybe we should have, merged the two together somehow, instead of this like cold turkey opening, with the blip and all that, which was cool to see. That hasn't been explored yet at all. I don't even think like Spider-Man Far From Home had any bit of that either. It was just like, hey, we're all back to life, but you never really saw that moment where, like, after Hulk snapped his fingers with the Iron Man gauntlet. I'm not going to call it the Infinity Gauntlet because it was red, right? But anyway, you never really saw that moment explored in the Marvel Universe yet. So to see that here was cool, but really, to me, that was the only cool moment in this show. Because we already knew somebody was watching, we already knew it was a television show. It's, I don't know. You go in there and you turn into a retro character, like the helicopter drone turns into a radio control helicopter from the 50s when it's found 2 episodes ago. The beekeeper from the end of the second episode was a guy in a radiation suit outside the shield wall. So that totally makes sense. I mean, I could have told you that without even seeing this episode. So I don't know. Maybe I've read too many comic books, watched too many movies, who knows. But to me, this episode wasn't so hot. So I hope that we get back to where we were in the next episode next week and go from there and blast off into this, what until this episode was a really, really great show, in my opinion. But maybe some people who weren't feeling the first couple episodes, maybe they really like this episode. So maybe now in episode 5, I think there's only 8 of these, so we need to hurry up though. Maybe the next episode everybody will come together and be like, oh yeah, this is a really good show, because they're getting, maybe we'll get both sides of the coin, what's happening inside Wanda's, little town, and outside at the same time. So who knows? Anyways, thank you guys for watching. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe down below. We will see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.